Today I'm going to show you how to make a 2-strand weaved bracelet. I've got 2 lengths of 0.2mm nylon thread and 12 beads of each colour. To get started, you want both your ends of nylon thread to be joined at the end. We're going to add a crimp bead. And then I'm going to use a callot because we're using 2 strands. A callot hides the 2 ends and just gives it a neater finish. So once you've crimped one end of your thread, you take the other end and you feed the callot onto the threads. I think of it as the callot eating up the thread as it threads on. These are clamshell callots, so it goes through the middle all the way up to the other end. And then you just close it carefully over the crimp, hiding the crimp. And I always give each corner a little squeeze just to make sure it's fully closed. So to start the bracelet, I am threading on 1 orange bead onto one strand, then a yellow bead onto both strands, followed by a green bead onto one strand. It doesn't matter if you put it on the same strand each time or each individual bead goes on a separate strand, because eventually you won't notice what strand they're on. And then I'm going to pop on a silver bead. So I shall show that pattern one more time before I fast forward through the video. So I've gone orange onto one strand, yellow onto 2 strands, green onto one strand, and silver onto both strands. The using the nylon thread gives an illusion effect that the beads are floating and you can't actually see them on the thread as they go on, so it also gives a bit of a waved effect as well. So that's where we are at the moment, and I shall come back in a minute when I am at the end and ready to finish off. Okay, so I finished adding all my beads onto my nylon. The great thing about this style is because the beads are on 2 strands, you can move them around and make the necklace, bracelet or necklace longer or shorter. So I've bunched mine up a bit because mine was a tad too long, a bit longer than what I wanted. So when I finished, I've put my callot on. This time its opening is facing the ends of the thread, and I'll push it down, and I've got a crimp bead. I've let the crimp bead drop into the opening of the callot, and I'm going to take my chain nose pliers and I'm going to squash the crimp bead. So that is now squashed. So I shall get some cutters and cut off the excess thread. And then I'm going to gently close the collar over. One tip I didn't give, and that is to check that the crimp is fully crimped. I've done it before where I thought it's crimped, I cut the excess thread off, and then the end comes off and you have to start all over again, which is rather frustrating. So I'm just going to take the risk this time. But yes, definitely check your crimp is crimped securely. You can possibly do 2 crimps if you're using smaller crimps that will still hide underneath the callot. And then to finish off, I'm going to add my lobster clasp using, this is a 4mm jump ring on one end, and on the other end I'll add a jump ring on there. You can make the same style in necklaces. You can do 3 strands. I've never tried 4 strands, but I can't see why you couldn't do a 4 strand. And the great thing about the nylon, like I say, is it looks like the beads are floating. You can't actually see the thread in between. The hardest part of this bracelet or necklace I always find is actually being able to carry on seeing the nylon thread as you're actually threading, so it's so fine.